every picture a life she sold. And I'm ending this nightmare now.
I'm a cybersecurity consultant. Been married to Lisa for 10 years, have an 8-year-old son, Jake. Always thought I had the perfect suburban life in Dallas until one Tuesday morning changed everything forever. I've always been methodical. 20 years in cybersecurity taught me that details matter, that one small oversight can bring down entire systems. But that morning, watching Jake scramble around our kitchen looking for his school tablet, I made a decision that would destroy the life I thought I knew. "Dad, I can't find my tablet anywhere," Jake said with that panic only a kid late for school could have. It was 7:47 a.m., his bus arriving in 8 minutes, and Lisa had already left for her consulting firm downtown. I spotted Lisa's work iPad on the coffee table, sleek black case identical to Jake's school tablet. "Here," I said, grabbing it and sliding it into Jake's backpack. "Use Mom's for today." Jake's face brightened. "Thanks, Dad. You're the best." The school bus rumbled from the street. I watched him sprint toward the door and climb aboard, waving at his friend Marcus. Crisis averted, I thought. I had no way of knowing that in exactly 4 hours, that simple decision would obliterate everything. The morning passed normally. I worked from my home office, diving deep into security protocols for a pharmaceutical company. My phone buzzed at 11:30 a.m. Lisa's name flashed on screen. "Hey, babe," I answered, not looking away from my monitors. "How's the Morrison project going?" Silence stretched for several seconds. Then Lisa's voice came through, tight with emotion I couldn't place. "Dylan, did Jake take my iPad to school?" Something in her tone made me pause. I'd known Lisa for 15 years, married her for 12. She was always composed, always in control. Even during Jake's difficult birth, she'd maintained that cool professionalism that made her effective in crisis management consulting. "Yeah, he couldn't find his tablet. I figured it wouldn't be a big deal since you've got your laptop at the office." I leaned back, suddenly alert. "Why? Is there a problem?" Another pause. No problem. I had some work files on there I need to access. Can you call the school and have them send it home with him today?" "Sure, but Lisa, I have to go. Client meeting. Love you." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, replaying the conversation. Lisa's voice had carried fear, something I'd rarely heard from her in 12 years of marriage. What could possibly be on her work iPad that would shake her like this? I was still pondering when my phone rang again at 12:15 p.m. "Mr. Carter, this is Mary Sullivan, Jake's teacher at Oakwood Elementary." "Hi, Mrs. Sullivan. Is everything okay?" The pause was long enough to make my stomach clench. "Mr. Carter, you need to come to the school immediately. There's been a situation involving the tablet Jake brought today. I can't discuss this over the phone. Please come as soon as possible. The police are already here." The phone slipped from my suddenly nerveless fingers. Police at my son's school? I was in my truck speeding toward Oakwood Elementary before Mrs. Sullivan's words fully registered. Oakwood Elementary looked like a crime scene. 2 patrol cars sat in the circular drive, red and blue lights creating an unsettling strobe effect. A crowd of parents had gathered near the entrance, whispering among themselves. Officer Martinez intercepted me at the door. "Mr. Carter, your son is fine, sir. I'm Officer Martinez. We need to talk." The way he said those words, calm, professional, but weighted with unmistakable gravity, made my blood run cold. The conference room was cramped and smelled faintly of cleaning solution. Mrs. Sullivan sat at the oval table, her usually cheerful demeanor replaced by barely contained horror. Principal Jefferson paced behind her like a caged animal. "Mr. Carter, this morning your son brought a tablet to school, is that correct?" Officer Martinez asked. "Yes, his own tablet wasn't working, so I gave him my wife's iPad. Is there a problem with the school's network?" Mrs. Sullivan made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a sob. Officer Martinez opened a manila folder and placed Lisa's iPad, now sealed in an evidence bag, on the table. "When your son tried to access educational apps this morning, the tablet automatically synced with cloud storage. Mrs. Sullivan was helping him log in when she saw something that made her immediately contact our department." My mouth went dry. "What did she see?" "Sir, what we found on this device is horrifying. Before I show you anything, I need to ask, do you have any knowledge of your wife's involvement in illegal activities?" The world seemed to tilt sideways. "Illegal activities? Lisa's a crisis management consultant." Officer Martinez pressed the power button and Lisa's iPad came to life. The home screen was normal. Work apps, social media, games, but there in the corner was a folder labeled Phoenix Operations. What's Phoenix stand for? He asked. I shook my head. I don't know, maybe a client name. He tapped the folder and my world exploded. The folder contained dozens of files, photos, documents, videos. At first glance, they looked like business materials. But as he scrolled through them, a pattern emerged that made my stomach lurch. These weren't corporate files. They were something far worse. Mr. Carter, Officer Martinez said quietly, your wife appears to be documenting criminal activities. We're talking about human trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy charges. These files contain evidence of at least 15 federal crimes. I stared at the screen, my mind refusing to process what I was seeing. Photos of shipping containers, encrypted communication logs, financial documents showing massive cash transfers, and in several photos, unmistakably, was Lisa. Not just present, leading. There has to be some mistake, I whispered. Lisa wouldn't, she couldn't, but pieces began clicking into place. Lisa's frequent business trips to ports in Houston and Los Angeles. Her new consulting clients who paid exclusively in cash. The way she'd become secretive about work over the past year, claiming attorney-client privilege when I asked about projects. Mr. Carter, I need to ask you directly. Did you know about any of this? I looked up from the tablet, meeting his steady gaze. No, I swear to God, I had no idea. Something in my voice must have convinced him because his expression softened slightly. Sir, I'm going to need you to come to the station for questioning. This is just procedure. You're not under arrest. The police station smelled like stale coffee and disinfectant. I sat in interview room B for 3 hours while Officer Martinez and Detective Rodriguez asked the same questions in different ways. The polygraph and background check cleared me of involvement. Now I was something worse. A sufferer. Your wife's company, Sterling Consulting Solutions. When did she start that? Detective Rodriguez asked, consulting his notes. About 18 months ago, I replied, voice hoarse from talking. She'd been working for Morrison and Associates for 8 years, but wanted to branch out on her own. According to our investigation, Sterling Consulting Solutions has no legitimate corporate clients. The business license was filed under false information, and the address is a mail forwarding service. The words hit me like a physical blow. That's impossible. She showed me contracts, invoices. All fabricated, Officer Martinez interrupted. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit ran traces on the business accounts. Every deposit came from shell companies connected to Vincent Torres. Who's Vincent Torres? A very bad man, Detective Rodriguez said grimly. He runs human trafficking operations from Mexico to Canada, with Dallas as central hub. Your wife wasn't just consulting for him, she was his operational partner. My cup slipped from numb fingers, spreading cold coffee across the metal table. You're telling me that Lisa was involved in human trafficking? Officer Martinez pulled out a tablet and opened a video file. This was recovered from the iPad's cloud storage this morning. The video was grainy, shot from what looked like a security camera in a warehouse. The timestamp showed 3 weeks ago. In the frame, Lisa stood beside a tall man with silver hair. Vincent Torres, I assumed. They were reviewing papers while other people moved cargo containers in the background. But it wasn't the business transaction that made my world collapse. It was what happened at the end. Lisa turned to Torres, rose on her tiptoes, and kissed him. Not a professional peck. A deep, intimate kiss that spoke of familiarity and passion. How long? I whispered. Based on the metadata from her files, at least 14 months, maybe longer. I stared at the frozen video frame, my wife's face captured, embracing another man. A criminal. A monster who bought and sold human beings like commodities. In the past year, has your wife exhibited any unusual behavior, changes in routine, unexplained absences, new sources of income? Officer Martinez asked. The floodgates opened. The trips, I said slowly. She started traveling constantly about a year ago, always to port cities, Houston, Los Angeles, Seattle, Miami. She said her new clients were in international logistics. We've been living better than we should have been able to afford on our combined income. Lisa said her consulting fees were higher than her old salary. But I mentally calculated our mortgage payments, Jake's private school tuition, Lisa's new BMW. Even with my cybersecurity income, the numbers hadn't quite added up. She was bringing in approximately $200,000 a year from her partnership with Torres, Detective Rodriguez said. Blood money from some of the worst crimes imaginable. My phone rang. Lisa's name flashed. Should I answer it? Officer Martinez nodded, gesturing to a recording device. Act normal. Don't let her know we've found anything. Hey, babe. Hi, honey. How was Jake's day at school? Lisa's voice sounded strained, but she was trying to project normalcy. Fine, he did great on his spelling test. When did you say you'd be back from Seattle? Friday evening. This client situation is more complicated than I expected. What kind of crisis are they dealing with? A pause. Personnel issues. I can't really discuss details. You know how it is with confidentiality agreements. I almost laughed at the irony. Here I sat in a police station learning my wife was a criminal who had been lying to me for over a year, and she was still maintaining her cover story. I miss you, I said, surprised to find some part of me meant it. 12 years of marriage didn't evaporate in a single afternoon. I miss you too. Kiss Jake for me. I have to go. My client is calling. She's not in Seattle, Detective Rodriguez said after I hung up. We checked with TSA. No record of Lisa Carter on any flights to Seattle today. Then where is she? Probably meeting with Torres to figure out damage control. Your wife is smart. She knows that sending Jake to school with her iPad was a catastrophic mistake. Officer Martinez leaned forward. Mr. Carter, there's something else you need to know. We've been building a case against Vincent Torres for 2 years. He's responsible for trafficking over 300 people through Texas. Young women and children from Central America mostly, promised jobs and safety, then sold into forced labor or worse. The room spun around me. And Lisa knew about this? She was more than complicit. According to the documents on her iPad, she was the one who developed the operational security protocols that kept Torres's organization running. Your wife's crisis management skills made her invaluable to a criminal enterprise. What happens now? We're coordinating with the FBI and ICE to take down Torres's entire operation. But Lisa is in the wind, and she's got access to significant cash reserves. If she doesn't surface soon, she could disappear completely. Detective Rodriguez pulled out another evidence bag. We found this in a hidden compartment of your wife's iPad case. Inside was a small silver key attached to a key ring with First National Storage logo. Storage unit? I asked. Most likely. If your wife was smart, and everything suggests she was, she'd have kept insurance, documents, cash, maybe evidence against Torres in case she needed leverage. That evening, after Jake went to bed asking when Mommy would be home, I sat in my home office and opened my laptop. For the first time in our marriage, I was going to investigate my wife. What I found painted a picture of careful deception stretching back almost 2 years. Secret credit cards, separate bank accounts I'd never known about, even a cell phone plan under her maiden name. But more disturbing were the gaps. Periods where Lisa had claimed to be in one city while her credit card usage showed she was somewhere completely different. By midnight, I had compiled a comprehensive digital profile of my wife's criminal activities. Bank transfers totaling over $400,000 in the past year. Flight records showing she'd been in Houston during 3 separate ICE raids that had nearly caught Torres's operation. Email fragments discussing inventory management and transportation logistics in terms that made me sick. But I also found something else that changed everything. Buried in Lisa's cloud storage, encrypted but not well enough to stop someone with my skills, was a folder labeled Insurance Policy. Inside were audio recordings, photos, and documents that didn't just implicate Vincent Torres. They implicated dozens of other people: politicians, judges, business leaders, law enforcement officers. Lisa had been documenting everything, collecting evidence on everyone involved in supporting Torres's operation. The storage unit key felt heavy in my pocket the next morning as I drove across town. Unit 247 was in the back corner. Inside, Lisa had created a professional-grade operations center. Filing cabinets lined one wall, labeled in her neat handwriting: logistics, personnel, financial, insurance. A desk held 2 laptops, external hard drives, and document scanner. But it was the far wall that made my blood run cold. Photos, hundreds of them, organized in neat rows. Images of shipping containers, warehouse facilities, transportation vehicles, and people. Mostly young women and children, looking terrified and exhausted. These weren't just evidence files. They were trophies. The filing cabinets contained detailed records of human trafficking operations spanning 3 years. Names, ages, countries of origin, transportation routes. Each folder represented dozens of lives destroyed. The financial cabinet contained records of payments totaling over $2 million. Lisa hadn't just been Torres's operational partner. She'd been his co-owner, taking a 50% cut of profits from every transaction. But it was the insurance cabinet that contained the real bombshell. Audio recordings of conversations with politicians, judges, and law enforcement officials. Photos of cash exchanges. Bank records showing payments to public officials. Lisa had been systematically documenting everyone involved in protecting Torres's operation. And at the bottom, in a fireproof safe, I found something that changed everything. A second set of books. These records showed that Lisa hadn't just been working with Torres. She'd been working against him, methodically gathering evidence while simultaneously helping expand his operations. Every transaction, every transport, every political payoff, she documented it all. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "How's Jake doing? I know this separation is hard on him." For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt genuine rage. She was sitting somewhere safe, probably planning her escape route, while her 8-year-old son cried himself to sleep asking when mommy would come home. After photographing every document, my phone rang. Detective Rodriguez. "Mr. Carter, we've got a problem. Vincent Torres was found dead in his hotel room this morning." "Dead? How?" "Professional hit. 2 shots to the back of the head. His room had been searched. Someone was looking for something specific." "The insurance files?" "That's our assumption. Your wife is now the only person who can bring down this trafficking network. She's also incredibly dangerous to everyone else involved." After hanging up, pieces clicked into place. Lisa had been playing a long game, positioning herself to take over Torres's operation while gathering evidence to destroy anyone who threatened her. But Torres's homicide changed everything. Now Lisa was running from people who eliminated without hesitation. My phone buzzed with a new message. "Dylan, I need to see you tonight. 8 p.m. Reunion Tower observation deck. Come alone. I'll explain everything." I smiled grimly. After 3 days of running, Lisa was finally ready to come home. She thought she could manipulate me, play on my love for her, and desire to protect our family. She had no idea that I'd spent the past 72 hours learning exactly what kind of person she really was. But she also had no idea about my background before cybersecurity. 20 years ago, I'd done 4 years in Army Special Operations. Most people didn't know that because it wasn't relevant to my current career. Lisa just made it very relevant. At 8 p.m., Reunion Tower's observation deck was nearly deserted. I arrived 15 minutes early and positioned myself where I could see elevators and all entrance points. Lisa emerged at exactly 8 p.m., looking nothing like the composed professional I'd known. Her normally perfect hair was pulled back messily. She wore jeans and a wrinkled jacket instead of business attire, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept in days. But what struck me most was how she moved. Gone was the confident stride of someone who commanded boardrooms. Now she moved like prey, constantly checking over her shoulder. "Thank God you came," she said, crossing quickly. She reached to hug me, but I stepped back. "We need to talk." Something in my tone made her pause. For the first time, Lisa really looked at me, studying my expression. "You know," she said softly, "I know about Vincent Torres. I know about the trafficking. I know about the storage unit and the insurance files and the $2 million you've made destroying people's lives." Lisa closed her eyes and leaned against the window, suddenly looking much older. "How long have you known?" "Since Tuesday afternoon when police found your files on Jake's school tablet." "I was so careful," she whispered. "The files shouldn't have synced to the cloud. You use the same Apple ID for both devices. When Jake tried to access the school network, it triggered automatic backup." Lisa laughed bitterly. "Brought down by iOS security features." We stood in silence for several minutes, city lights twinkling below like nothing had changed. "Why?" I finally asked. Lisa was quiet so long I thought she might not answer. "Do you remember when Morrison and Associates laid me off 3 years ago? By the time I realized what Vincent's business actually was, I was already in too deep. He had photos of me at meetings, recordings, financial records. He made it clear that if I tried to leave, I'd go to prison and Jake would lose both parents." "So you stayed for 3 years?" "I stayed because I didn't have a choice, and then I realized Vincent wasn't as smart as he thought. I knew his operation would eventually collapse, so I started building my insurance policy. If I was going down, I was taking everyone with me." "What changed? Why are you running now?" "Because Vincent found out about the insurance files. 3 days ago he called and said if I didn't turn over everything and disappear permanently, he'd eliminate you and Jake. He described our house in detail, Jake's school schedule, your jogging route. I gave him the files and told him I was leaving Dallas forever. But you didn't give him everything." "I kept copies of the most damaging evidence. I thought I might need them for leverage. And now Vincent's dead." Lisa went pale. "What? Professional hit this morning, which means his partners decided he was a liability. And now you're the only person who can bring them down. Lisa began crying, great, shuddering sobs. I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to provide for our family. So, you decided to destroy other people's families instead. The harshness in my voice made her flinch. Those files in your storage unit, Lisa. Photos of children who were sold like property. Don't you dare try to justify that as providing for our family. I know what I did was wrong. Wrong? My voice rose. What you did was evil. You were complicit in destroying hundreds of lives and you profited from it. You think I don't know that? But I was trapped, Dylan. Once you're in that world, there's no clean way out. There's always a choice. We glared at each other across the deck. 12 years of marriage reduced to this moment. I saw who Lisa really was. Not just a criminal, but someone who'd chosen to save herself at the expense of innocent people. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you're going to help me fix this. Dylan, we need to run. Tonight. Take Jake and disappear. I'm not running from criminals, and I'm sure as hell not letting you disappear with blood money while your sufferers continue to suffer. I pulled out my phone and showed her a draft email to Detective Rodriguez containing every piece of evidence I'd gathered, along with her current location. You're going to tell me everything. Every name, every location, every operation you know about. You're going to help me build a case that will destroy Vincent's entire network. Lisa stared at the phone, then at my face, reading the determination there. You've changed, she said softly. You taught me to. Over the next 18 hours, Lisa provided a complete breakdown of Torres's organization. Names, locations, operational schedules, financial networks, political connections. The corruption was breathtaking. 3 federal judges, a dozen police officials, 2 city council members, and a state senator had all been receiving regular payments. But there was something else. Vincent wasn't the top of the organization, Lisa said. He answered to someone called the director. You never met this person? Never. Vincent referred to him in phone calls, but always used that title. The director made all major strategic decisions and controlled political connections, which meant Torres's homicide wasn't about eliminating competition. It was about eliminating a liability who knew too much about the director's identity. And now Lisa was the liability. That evening, Lisa's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Carter, we need to discuss Vincent's insurance policy. Tonight, 10 p.m., Dallas Arboretum main entrance, come alone. I looked at the message and smiled grimly. This isn't a negotiation, it's an execution. Or an opportunity, I said, opening a duffel bag I'd brought from home. Inside were items that had nothing to do with cybersecurity consulting. Night vision goggles, tactical radios, restraints, and a Glock 19 that Lisa had never known I owned. Dylan, what is this? Insurance. 20 years ago, before cybersecurity, I spent 4 years in Army Special Operations. You never told me you were a criminal who helped traffic human beings. Seems we both kept secrets. At 10 p.m., the Dallas Arboretum was shadows and moonlight. Lisa approached the main entrance wearing a wire and GPS tracker. 200 yards away, hidden in the tree line, I monitored multiple feeds from miniature cameras I'd positioned around the meeting site. A black SUV pulled into the drive. 3 men emerged, 2 muscle, and a third who commanded attention. Despite his unremarkable appearance, Lewis Chapman looked like a suburban accountant, but moved with absolute authority. Mrs. Carter, Chapman said as Lisa approached, I'm sorry we meet under these circumstances. You're the director. I prefer Mr. Chapman. Vincent created several problems before his end, the most significant being his failure to retrieve certain documents that could cause difficulties for our organization. Chapman's bodyguards positioned themselves to block escape routes. What we need to determine is whether you're an asset to be managed or a liability to be eliminated. 200 yards away, I watched through my scope while FBI agents listened through tactical radios. Do we have enough? Rodriguez whispered. Not yet, I replied. We need him to admit to trafficking and identify partners. What kind of asset management are you offering? Lisa asked. Relocation with a generous financial package in exchange for your files and permanent silence. And if I refuse? Chapman's smile never wavered. Then you become a liability. And we handle liabilities efficiently. Your husband and son would be considered part of the same liability. You're threatening my family. I'm explaining consequences. Derek's organization touched many lives. Judges, politicians, business leaders, law enforcement. They won't allow one person's conscience to destroy everything they've built. Chapman pulled out a tablet showing surveillance photos of me setting up equipment. Did you think we wouldn't notice FBI units moving into position? Your husband's detective work has been entertaining, but it ends tonight. Chapman gestured to his bodyguards. Take them both. Make it look like homicide self-destruction. That was when my military training took over. The first bodyguard made it 15 steps before a tranquilizer dart dropped him unconscious. The second managed to draw his weapon before a flashbang grenade detonated at his feet, leaving him blind and disoriented long enough for FBI agents to tackle him. Chapman spun toward Lisa, reaching for a tool, but found himself staring down the barrel of my Glock as federal agents swarmed the area. Lewis Chapman, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit homicide, human trafficking, racketeering, and about 15 other federal crimes, Detective Rodriguez announced. Chapman's calm demeanor finally cracked. You have no idea what you've just done. The people I work with don't accept failure. Then they're going to be very disappointed, I said quietly, because you just failed spectacularly. As they loaded Chapman into FBI transport, Lisa approached me with something like awe. How long have you been planning this? Since Tuesday afternoon when I realized my wife was a criminal who'd been lying to me for 3 years. 6 months later, I sat in federal district court watching Lisa face sentencing for her role in one of the largest human trafficking prosecutions in Texas history. She'd lost weight during custody, her once perfect appearance giving way to harsh reality of federal detention. Judge Harrison reviewed sentencing documents with meticulous care. Mrs. Carter, you have pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit human trafficking, money laundering, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. Before imposing sentence, the judge reviewed what Lisa's cooperation had accomplished. Her testimony and evidence led to conviction of 47 individuals involved in trafficking operations across 6 states. Her intelligence enabled law enforcement to rescue 63 sufferers and recover over $200 million in assets. Several sufferers provided impact statements. Maria Rodriguez, rescued from a Houston facility, spoke in heavily accented but strong English. I was 15 when men took me from my family in El Salvador. For 3 years I lived in hell, but when FBI came to that warehouse, they gave me back my life. The woman who helped keep me prisoner is sitting right there, but she also helped set me free. I don't know how to feel about that. When called for final statement, Lisa approached the podium. Your Honor, I want to start by apologizing to every person whose life was damaged by my actions. I told myself I was trapped, but that was a lie. I had choices every day. I chose money over human decency. She turned to face the sufferers. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back the years stolen from you. But I want you to know that helping FBI destroy this network wasn't about reducing my sentence. It was about making sure no one else would suffer the way you suffered. Judge Harrison delivered the sentence. Mrs. Carter, your crimes were serious, and your participation directly contributed to immeasurable human suffering. However, your cooperation has been extraordinary and resulted in rescue of hundreds of sufferers. Therefore, this court sentences you to 12 years in federal prison with eligibility for parole in 6 years, contingent on continued cooperation. As court adjourned, Assistant U.S. Attorney Mills approached me. How do you feel about the sentence? It's fair, I replied. She pays a significant price, but her cooperation is rewarded appropriately. Your wife's intelligence has opened investigations in 4 other federal districts. We expect to file charges against at least 30 additional individuals over the next year. 2 years later, I stood in the backyard of our new house in Austin, watching Jake practice soccer with his youth league team. At 10 years old, he'd grown into a confident, happy kid who excelled in school and had close friends in our new community. The house was smaller than our old place in Dallas, but it was ours, bought with money from my legitimate cybersecurity consulting work. I'd chosen to start fresh, selling everything connected to our old life and building something new. I now work as senior cybersecurity analyst with the FBI's Human Trafficking Task Force, specializing in financial investigations and digital forensics. The work is challenging, meaningful, and has taken me across the country as trafficking networks become increasingly sophisticated in their use of technology. We shut down 3 major networks last quarter, rescued 47 sufferers, and seized over $100 million in assets. Jake asks about Lisa less frequently now. He knows she's in prison and that she did things that hurt people. He writes her letters sometimes, but doesn't ask when she's coming home anymore. That evening, after Jake went to bed, he made one observation that showed his moral clarity. "Dad, I know Mom did bad things, but I'm glad she helped police catch the other bad people, too." "Why's that, buddy?" "Because even when people make mistakes, they should try to fix them if they can. Lisa had tried to destroy our family with her choices. Instead, she taught me who I really was when everything I'd built was stripped away. The work I do now, using technology to protect vulnerable people from hunters like Lisa, it's turned her betrayal into something meaningful. Hundreds of trafficking sufferers are free because we used her evidence to destroy the networks that enslaved them. Not the life I planned, but one I can be proud of. A life built on truth instead of lies, purpose instead of comfort, and love that was earned rather than assumed.